Joining me is the Shadow Trade and Tourism Minister, Kevin Hogan. Kevin Hogan, thanks for your time. The Treasurer says a soft landing is more likely, that the numbers have come in better than forecast and better than expected. What do you say to it?
Well, look, inflation is coming down, Kieran. We all expected inflation to coming down. Market economists expect inflation to be coming down. But I reiterate the point, Kieran, that this doesn't mean prices are falling. The prices of all commodities and all services are still getting higher every day and every week. They're just getting higher at a slower pace. I also note that the services inflation figure is still over 4%. So that's like getting a haircut, getting your car fixed. So that's still very high. And the underlying inflation rate, as he said, is 3.2%. Reserve Bank have a band of 2 to 3% where they like inflation to be. And our underlying inflation rate is still higher than that. So families, cost of living, still doing it tough. Today's figures don't change that.
If there is a rate cut in February, possibly 2 before the election, how important will that be for Australian families?
Well, look, Australian families need a rate cut. I mean, the score at the moment, Kieran, is under this Labor government. We have had 12 interest rate increases since they were elected and no rate cuts. So at the moment, the score's 12-0. 12 increases, no decreases in interest rates since Labor's in government. So, look, I certainly hope that on February the 18th there's a rate cut and then the score will be 12-1. But look, there's still a lot of work to be done. I think Australia's inflation rate has been sticky. It's been higher for longer than comparable countries around the world. And a lot of that is the Labor policies that we see. We just saw a car and ute tax come into play on January the 1st, which is a bad policy of the Labor government. We saw the truckie tax last year. Their IR policies, their energy policy have all meant that we have had higher prices for longer. So look, at the moment, it's 12 rate increases under Labor, no decreases. Australian families need a decrease, and I certainly hope there is one on February the 18th.
You, as I mentioned, the Shadow Trade Minister, I've noticed today you've committed, if Peter Dutton wins the upcoming election, you'll pursue a free trade agreement with Israel. Explain to our viewers your thinking on that.
Well, we actually started the process when in government, Kieran, and I remind everyone, and I remind people often that I think one of the great sung achievements of the coalition government between 2013 and 2022 when we were in government was in the trade space. We did a number of multilateral and bilateral trade agreements, which meant when we came to government in 2013, goods and services covered by a free trade agreement was around 25%. By the time we left, we'd just done the UK deal, we'd just done the India deal. That had increased to 80%. Now, what does that mean? That means that all our goods and services that we sell overseas had more markets. And indeed, Kieran, the 4 biggest export markets in this country right now, coal, iron ore, gas and food, are driving the economic times that we have in the sense of jobs. You just heard the Treasurer saying, some of the economists you've been talking to today say, well, there's jobs in Australia at the moment, unemployment rate's low. I think a lot of it's on the base of the trade that we do. In that period, we also looked at looking at a deal with Israel, a free trade agreement. That fell off the radar when Labor come into government, so I'll happily reinvigorate that process to look to see if we can nail a deal with Israel. They're a democratic country. They obey the rules-based order within the WTO. We sold over $300 million worth of stuff to them last year. I'd like to see that increase.
Kevin Hogan, Shadow Trade Minister, talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Kieran.